Okay, so hello everyone. Today is Thursday, November the 2nd, and we are continuing in our story of flight. So, Harriott, would you like to take it away?
I will. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
Bef-
Harriet.
Before we get started, let us take a moment to just release and let go of all of the worries and concerns of the past 24 hours and beyond that, if necessary. Relax. See ourselves surrounded by the white light of love and protection as we relax and drift away into the story of aerial flight and her adventures as we follow along in the reading of this book. We're grateful that we're all here together and we can enjoy this adventure. Excuse me. And now let us begin our flight. We're starting today in chapter 33. And to kind of, again, refresh everybody, the book is a quantum fiction novel written by Vanna Bonta. And the protagonist of our story is Mendel J. Orion. He's a writer. And the protagonist of the book that he's working on, he's a science fiction writer, by the way. And the protagonist of the story that he's writing is Aria Flight. And she has a very special friend. His name is Jarian. I kind of see him as her soulmate and very close friend at this point. Some of the other characters in our story are Sandra Wilford, who's kind of Mendel's nemesis, Laptor and Jurassic, who are also characters in Mendel's book. And there are other various characters that we will meet along the way. And if you want to know more about them, when I come across their names, just stop and just ask me to stop and say who they are and where they fit into the story. And I hope I can remember. Okay. When we last left off, Aria and Mendel had gone to the theater, and the music evidently just caught Aria up, and she participated in the performance that was going on stage, and it kind of took everybody by surprise. So beginning with chapter 33, seeming endless as eternity, the evening passed. Being in Paul Tour's car meant it was mostly over, and Sandra was relieved. Paul Tour is a government employee that Sandra has consulted to try and find or get the identity of exactly who Aria is. She's a sneaky something, and this is what she's up to. Soon she would be rid of them all and have what she wanted. She was beyond hating herself for compromising, going to bad, doing so had becoming perfunctory routine to her. Numbly, she was doing it again, pretending to like someone in order to ensure an objective. I thought we would have a little nightcap, Paul said, pulling up to the curb. Not wanting to upset anything, Sandra tacitly agreed. Without waiting for the valet to open her car door, she gingerly got out of Paul's car, concealing her impatience as she waited for him at the steps of the hotel. When they arrived at the revolving rooftop nightclub, Sandra quelled a desire to turn around. Although these places made her dizzy, she maintained composure, keeping herself perfectly together. Let's make it a quick one. I still have to do some work on an article deadline, she said. Waiting to be seated was more drudgery. Though it was only minutes, it felt arduously long before they were finally settled at a table and she could broach the subject. So, Sandra put on a self-effacing laugh as she finished. I told you the person was a little weird. Paul didn't say anything. You probably thought I was crazy at first, she continued languidly, swirling her chair sideways and crossing her legs for him to view. I appreciate your tracing her for me. When Paul seemed unimpressed, Sandra felt compelled to explain. The extraterrestrial bit I came to you with was a potential theory. She apparently had some problem with her memory. Actually, you won't believe this, but the City Detective Services first gave me the idea. There was a case some years ago. It was Paul's turn to volunteer information. Sandra waited for it. Sorry, my pages are stuck. Okay. It was Paul's turn to volunteer information. Sandra waited for it. Instead of giving her any, he asked, how long have you known Mr. Orient? Mendel? About 2 years. He's a little weird himself. I actually tried to get him to see my therapist. Oh, who do you see? Paul asked. Alfred Kofkiff. Do your friends like him too? Mendel did go once. Actually, I wanted him to bring that woman there too. Who is she? What did you find? How long have you been seeing Dr. Kofkiff? Not long, Sandra felt a tug of suspicion. She had been trying to be charming. I don't see him anymore. Nothing serious. I wanted to get over a relationship. She emanated her most sensible presence. How long has Mr. Orion been seeing Miss Flight? That's not her real name, you know. All right. In fact, what is it? Let's get that over with, Paul. Then we can relax. You said you found a driver's license. I don't have any of it with me, Paul said, patting his jacket. Is there anything you can tell me? Call me at the office. That would be best. Don't you remember any specifics? He was a wall. I'd have to look up the file. The tone was final. When the waitress brought their order, they sipped champagne and looked over the city lights in silence. How long has he been seeing her? Paul repeated his question. Sandra was annoyed. His persistence surprised her. She didn't turn off her charm. She turned it on the more while hardening within. Almost a year. Did you know her before then? With a toss of her hair, Sandra purred. All these questions. Don't tell me you didn't find her. Don't tell me you find her attractive too. She lifted her glass. Maybe we can talk about it more. after Monday. Fine, Paul said, smiled tersely. I'll call you at the office, Sandra smiled. They clinked champagne glasses. When he put his hand on her knee, she didn't say a word. Any comments?
No, I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah, I think Sandra, or not Sandra, but Paul is seeing right through Sandra.
He does.
And he doesn't want to be really a part of it.
I
He
agree.
Doesn't want to get tangled in her little web.
Okay.
I agree. Plus, I think he's trying to let her know that everything is on the professional up and up, nothing more.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay. The constellations twinkled overhead at the Valley Heart House. It was 3 a.m. and Mendel still couldn't sleep. That friend of Sandra's gave me the creeps, Mendel repeated. There was something familiar about him. What was his name? Paul Tour? Paul Tour. Where have I heard that? Mendel searched his memory. Sensing Mendel's annoyance with her, Harriott tried to explain why she leapt off the balcony. I was just happy. The music was so beautiful. I mean, war is okay. People walk around in an environment that is completely unacceptable, at least in my opinion, and no one says anything. Why should anyone be upset with me just because I express joy and love? That's not exactly it, Harriott. I feel agitated now, she sulked in the white armchair. You feel agitated? Let me see. How can I put this? After your gargantuan extravaganza, don't you think someone's going to get curious about you? Wouldn't you like to know who you are before people do? I'm curious, Harriott said, still not sure how she did it. There was that curtain. It had a cable on it. It looks like you were flying, Mendel yelled. Harriott thought back. She didn't recall anything her body was doing, just a huge ecstasy she seemed to float on. You know what people would do if they knew about you? That you glow, move objects, heal wounds. In fact, he trailed off. What? Mendel mulled over what Sandra had blurted out about having traced Harriott to Iowa. What did that mean? Was Sandra, in fact, digging? Or was it another one of her bluffs, a control tactic? Harriott was waiting for his reply. Her intention was strong. He actually felt it like a suction. I don't know, he said, suddenly despondent. Don't you remember anything else? I don't think I was flying, Mendel, Harriott said. I mean about your past. I really don't, she apologized. And I've read about charisma, telekinesis, and faith healing. This is crazy. Mendel got up and started pacing. If you, in fact, did fly over the balcony and did not use any cables or ropes or curtains, whatever, to help you down, it confirms whoever you are, you've got something unusual going. If the government knew about you, they'd lock you up. Harriott laughed. Do you really think so? I know so, Mendel yelled, his face turning red and scaring Harriott. Look at the news, he shouted, exasperated. Rape, senseless murder. Those damn carjackings, people buying it as normal everyday life. Don't you wonder about that? Actually, I have. Do you know how easy it is to steal a car? So why would people kill their fellows but just blast them there to get a car? It isn't necessary. It's because things are getting crazy. People are getting desperate. They go crazy if police get over anxious. But let's see some riots over nuclear accidents. Let's see some riots over crime, murder, theft. Come on, citizens. Show your damn wrath over drive-by shootings, killing children, drugs, political greed, over people being killed over money. Get out there and riot over that. Grab some criminals and get incensed, damn it. It makes me wild. But no, crime is just being supported. Government hires criminals, his eyes bulging, his fists clenched, he screamed, "Do you realize where we are?" Some of his rage temporarily spent, Mindell threw himself on the sofa. Maybe we can do something. Sure, Mindell crossed his arms in front of him to the tune of the Mighty Mouse cartoon show he sang. Here she comes to save the day. Harriott Flight is on her way. Here she comes to save mankind. And we say, it's about time. Harriott started to laugh. Mindell fell silent and allowed himself to sink into brooding. If that's even your name, he decided he would first look at any evidence Sandra offered before mentioning the driver's license. As Harriott watched him, something stirred in her. It was on the periphery of her knowing, just out of reach but distant, even though she wasn't sure what it was. We're only human, but we can try, she heard herself trying to placate him. If she insists she's human, what does that make me? Subhuman? And the rest of the human race? Tied in a knot, Mindell suddenly sprang to his feet, stomped over to the cabinet, and angrily yanked a bottle of bourbon out of hutch. We're up against some pretty big timers. Pharmaceuticals are big money. It's more than one vested interest manipulating people with drugs, training people into obedient slaves. Angrily, he twisted off the cap. Harriott's face crumbled into non-comprehension. Mindell, she said, heartbroken at the sight of the bottle. Onyx had been sleeping in the corner of the room and was now on his haunches, confused. Don't mind me, he hissed. I'm unlocking my potential. He started to lift the bottle to his lips. Mindell, wait, she stopped him. When I talk about beautiful things, people just stare at me. She felt huge sorrow pushing up to cry. I saw it's possible to have a true civilization, to cure crime and war. And I've looked at like I'm saying something insane. He looked down at the floor and shifted his feet impatiently. But that isn't insane, Harriott said. War is, and crime is. But it's here. You can talk all you want. You can be Miss Sunshine all you want. That doesn't change it. Mindell, she said, when she saw his arm tighten to lift the bottle. Mindell, you're my friend. When you drink, you go away. The simplicity stunned him. You are different, he insisted. Do you want me to hold myself back or make myself look less so you won't feel bad? No, that's not it. Don't be a traitor to yourself, Mindell. We're no different. Harriott started to cry as the sorrow broke loose. Realization had been hovering at the periphery of her awareness, flooded her. I know you. I do know you. I love you. I've loved you forever. Grappling with the validity of the thought and not wanting to impose it on him, she couldn't voice it. We're both trapped, Mendel. We both have limits. I know, he howled, elongating the words, his voice ungodly and bestial. He hurled the bottle of bourbon across the room, sending it smashing into the wall, where it crashed, shattered, and splattered in its contents. When Mendel looked at Onyx, he swore he saw fur turn a bluish color and smoke sputter from barred fangs. She moved too fast. She was over by Arya in an instant, sitting on her haunches, valiantly flailing her paws. It's all right, Onyx, Arya said, and the animal resumed her normal Samoyed smile. Mendel laughed as though he had cracked. That dog isn't no farm dog from Iowa, unless I'm seeing things. He saw himself laughing like a madman and stopped. Amazed at his own behavior, Mendel moaned, I don't know. And covering his face with his hand, he crumbled to his knees. God, what am I thinking? What am I doing? Arya recalled Sandra's description of Mendel as hostile and moody. The comments had incited doubts about him. His anguish was real. He did have a reason, even if he didn't know what it was. She went to Mendel, and dropping to the floor next to him, she encircled him in her arms and held him. I don't know how I've held on this long, he was sobbing. I don't know anything. One day I'm a god, the next day I'm a shit. It's useless, all of it. Arya held him and caressed his head. I understand, she said. Mendel wiped his face. I'm sorry. Okay, whatever it is, there's a reason, she told him calmly. He laughed abruptly. That's true, he said. That's logical. There is a reason. He looked at the smashed liquor bottle and saw how he'd used it, playing into the very thing he condemned, knowing he would never do it again. I know you. I've loved you forever, she found herself thinking. It was intense and real, but she did not understand it completely. Mendel sat up. You know, Sandra insinuated that you talk too much and the sunshine hit isn't real. I'm sorry, it affected me. Arya nodded, perplexed, but she told me I was deep. She said, confused, she said things to me too about your moods and that men are bestial. It shouldn't have surprised him, but it did. Figures. That's just how wars get started. Divide and conquer. Someone pretends to be a friend to both sides, tells one side one thing and the other side something else. It gets each distrustful of or turned against the other. Mendel vowed once and for all, with no exceptions, Sandra could not be trusted. That's true. While pretending to be a friend to both sides, they're actually an enemy, treasonous to both, Arya said. Her eyes narrowed. It's so incomprehensible. It makes no sense. Cooperation is so much more productive. That's why it makes no sense, Mendel said. My first reaction to something like that is usually, it can't be, or I don't believe it, Harriott confided, finding her response to evil interesting for that reason. Mine too, because I mean, why? We see the synonyms in the ancient, in the society of sickness, but the cause is almost invisible because no one can believe it. It's so incredible. You see, you haven't completely condemned the human race, Harriott said. Yeah, I have to remember to be specific. It usually was a specific person or two causing the damage, he realized, making it seem like everybody. What else did she tell you? Arya smiled. She playfully lifted her finger, held it straight, then let it droop. She thought Mendel would laugh, but he didn't. Yeah, right, he said. Well, it's true. I'm not much of a man, and I surely wasn't with her. Arya laughed. Being a man doesn't rest in your penis, she said. Not in your guts. It's a matter of soul. You are a man and more. You have courage. You do. Because you dare to wonder, even if daring to wonder means not having pat, easy answer. You observe and you feel and you dare to communicate it in your work, even if no one agrees with you. You go into areas that could terrify others, yet you're willing to experience even the terror of if you must, and loneliness. She was exciting him. Her words were enthralling, and as he listened to her thoughts, he was getting an erection. It had never quite happened that way before. And when you don't travel a paved road, you don't know what's ahead, but you keep walking because you know it's the right one. That's courage. It takes courage to admit you don't know, to find out, being willing to experience fear, to do the right thing, no matter what. That's courage. It even takes courage to cry, to admit you don't know. You're a man, Mendel Orion. She embraced him. I love you. I love you. I've longed for you. Where have you been, my love? It's you. Mendel and Arya pulled back and looked at one another. Neither of them had been aware of their bodies or how they came to be holding one another. They almost kissed, but Mendel looked away. I have this thing anyway, Arya apologized. I think I'm looking for someone, for some true love, she shrugged. He was getting tired. He didn't want to touch the ring of coincidence. I hope you remember soon. I'll help you however I can, he murmured. I'm me, she said, her voice lilting upward, almost like a question. To his silence, she offered consolation he himself had given her. The details will come. I'll remember. I almost remembered more tonight. Mendel shook his head. You might be married or something. There might be someone waiting for you somewhere. He looked at her slowly. She isn't pretending. She isn't lying. She can't be. If she's from Iowa, then she herself doesn't know. It won't explain my book. How I described a character like her. Then again, I'm not the first man to fall in love with a woman. I think I've dreamed of forever. Mendel shook his head. He was ready for her, body and soul. He got up to shake off the intense desires. I just want to make sure you really love me, he exclaimed. That you know me and love me. When you're completely fine. You know what I mean. Arya nodded, wishing she remembered details of her past and appreciating Mendel's position. Pain seared through her. She felt rejection. Seen, even though she didn't express her love for him. It's only fair. I completely know myself before declaring I know him. Before I complete. Oof. Let me read that again. It's only fair. I completely know myself before declaring I love him. I sound like a girl, Mendel said, grinning. No, what you're talking about has to do with character, Arya said, softly, not looking at him. It has no gender. Feeling understood, Mendel walked back over to Arya, sat next to her on the floor, and channeled his affection into her an embrace. As they settled onto pillows on the plush carpet under the skylight, they reminded each other to send a patron's check to Matoso. They decided to start a defense fund of their own to champion the real minority and finance the funneling of inspired material into the society. Then, looking up into the sky, they wandered in thought and drifted until their bodies fell asleep. In the corner of the room, Onyx could finally relax. She did a final surveillance of the area, mostly through one eye. Then lazily, she let her lids droop shut and dozed off into the pleasant advantages of being a dog. I don't think I mentioned Onyx before, but Onyx is Arya, the being's pet dragon. And now that they are earthbound, of course, Arya has taken on human form, and Onyx is a dog, a Samoyed.
Wow.
Any comments or questions?
I was enjoying the reading.
Well, I tried to get on the last time, but I couldn't figure out how to work my phone.
Oh gosh.
But now I'm really kind of I'm annoyed with Mendel because I don't know why he is so obtuse. What is taking him so long to understand that Arya is the person from his book, and she's not from this planet. I mean, what's her name knows it. So does the Paul guy.
I think Mendel knows it, but he just doesn't want to admit it.
Let me finish for a second before you jump in.
Okay.
You know, I think that this is also probably a key to him understanding that he is Jaden or Drayden or whoever her boyfriend is from wherever her planet is,
right,
her dimension.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and that's one of the things that we didn't mention earlier is that when they were at the play, she flew
Right.
around the auditorium, and
Right.
everybody saw that.
Mm-hmm.
So why would he come in, pretend like that didn't happen, rush over to the bar to get a drink, then now he got to throw the drink up, now he got to throw the ball up beside the wall. I mean, I understand that this is a process of him finding out who he is and everything, but we have the nemesises if that's if that's the way you pronounce it. We have and Nemesis is understanding who she is and already making a plan about what what to do with her and about her, because although Paul and Sandra are at the restaurant, they know that on Monday they're gonna figure out what to do, how to ensnare and how to trap her. And I don't understand how come he doesn't want to. Why is he? What is taking him so long to realize the thing that I know that he knows deep down inside. So
When
I'm
you
just
say he, you talking about Mendel or Paul?
Mendel.
Okay.
Paul and Sandra know the deal. They're already making plans. They're already making plans. It's Mendel. I don't know why is he taking so long to realize who she is. And the only thing that I can think of is just he doesn't want to know who he is right now either. He's just as blind to himself the way that she has amnesia.
Something that came to me while you were talking is that, is it possible now, even though he's an author and it says that he's writing a book, but is it possible that he's actually coming face to face with his higher self, Ariel, and he's actually writing his journal and the things that are happening in his life and intertwining them into a story per se, because he's finally meeting his higher self and coming into an understanding of things that bother him, but he, instead of him taking on the responsibility of saying they bother him, he's allowing his higher self to bring up those issues.
I never thought about it.
It's just a thought that kind of came to me while you were talking, Penelope, as to him not recognizing her as a being from another planet. But there are times when we as individuals feel that we're from another planet and that the people around us, these human beings that come into our life, they have ulterior motives. And sometimes rather than, sometimes it's hard for us to say, hey, you have an ulterior motive. I don't want you doing this, or I don't want to be around you, and that type of thing. We sort of, push it aside and don't want to really look at it and let them know. So that's just a thought that kind of occurred to me.
That's an interesting thought, and I never really thought about it until you did mention it. And it's a possibility. But what I wanted to say earlier was, I think Mendel knows, but he just doesn't want to admit it. Because remember, he saw her naked and he realized she doesn't have a belly button like humans do. And that, I think, is the thing that's really bothering him at this point. He's afraid to ask. And I think the fact that she doesn't have a belly button is kind of like the clue that he knows that she is not of this planet.
And that she can fly.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a belly button and she can fly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I just, he just, I don't know, he's just become I want him to hurry up and get to the program, because his being so obtuse is, really becoming annoying to me.
Again,
annoying me now.
As one of the fellas in the room, if y'all don't mind me stepping in, ladies.
Go right ahead.
Contrary to popular belief on how, and it's funny because it's actually said in the story how Sandra spoke to Arya when they were in Iowa, and actually I missed that part, so I gotta catch up a little bit. But what I'm paying attention to right now is how she spoke and the certain things that she said, not just the personal things that she spoke when it came to Mendel himself, but the personal things that she herself has been witnessed to, or has judged when it comes to certain things. So
When you
she
say she,
told
are you talking about Andre?
Sandra,
Sandra, okay.
Sandra. So Sandra tried to give Arya that narrative that men are beastly, men are ghastly. Mind you, you also got to remember that no matter whatever is going on, Mandel has been under Sandra's control no matter what. Like he been sleeping with this woman and didn't really like this woman to the point, there was nothing there and she still wouldn't leave him alone. So
even after he told her bye,
leave me alone. She still didn't get the hint,
Nope.
So it's a point, like I will be your friend, but I will, but that's a form of control again. And I think with her explaining that is a everyday psychosis of how women, and excuse me if I'm going too far, please step up and say something. No disrespect, but when a woman does not understand a man, they get angry. A man is not allowed to get angry at a woman. We're not allowed to not understand you all. And first of all, he never got a chance to understand Sandra because she's about nothing but control.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most intimate part of his relationship, is somebody trying to control him and restrain him, and he's trying to break out. Then you have Arya coming in and opening him up to something new, different, and enlightening and mysterious. It's a disruption of the pattern. So as a man, and not just a man, we've all gone through where you're a little timid to tell the person you like that you like them the way you like them. Little boys, and again, like I say, no disrespect, I come from a different generation. Little boys would hit little girls, but also little girls would hit little boys. I like you, and next thing you know, y'all boyfriend and girlfriend for the next 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's about. I think what we're seeing, me personally, is and I agree with each and every one of what you said in the questions, but what I'm seeing right now is that both of them are going through a moment of puberty, that either one never knew existed for one reason or another, whether it be an out of space alien entity that he created and didn't have to go through it, or one recognizing that I've gone through this and I am I am in control, and these emotions do not control. So I hope I didn't lose you guys, but that's all I got. That's where I see it. So I do see the obtuseness, but that's because we're men and we're stupid around women, and it don't matter if you were alien or not.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. And one other thing, I agree with what you're saying. And one other thing that I was going to say is, agreeing with you, is that Sandra hears only and sees only what Sandra wants to see and hear. She doesn't hear what Mandel says to her. I mean, Mandel could tell her, excuse my French, to go to hell, and she's not going to hear it. You know, she's going to hear just go, but she's not going to hear where to go, and that he wants her to leave him alone. She's just going to see it as him, and as you said, going through puberty, as him wanting to be around her.
He's
You
just
know?
being a child right now, and I'll be back. He'll call me back. It's
And that's
very.
because he always does. He every time he says no, and she says meet me here, he meets her there. So you know,
So
and
he's
him and Aria.
yeah.
And you know, and now he looks at Onyx, sees something, and then still wants to pretend like he didn't see what he just saw.
Well, I
So
hate to be a
you know,
spoiler.
for me, I think that he's gonna understand eventually that he is, what's his name, Jaden.
Yeah,
What's his
I
name?
agree with you. I
Jaden.
think we're all going there.
Mhm.
What happened to his friend? Is Paul his friend that was at the
No,
bar?
Paul is the Homeland Security guy. Sandra, a
Okay,
couple
yeah,
of
okay.
maybe
Catching up
last week.
again. Yep, I'm
Um,
catching up again.
yeah, maybe last week, Sandra, because Sandra realizes that Aria is an alien from outer space. So she
Mm-hmm.
goes to the Homeland Security guy that she knows and says, "Hey, look, can you do a background check on her?" He does the background check and finds out that somebody who has these fingerprints is from Iowa.
Iowa, yeah.
Right. So that's where Iowa comes in.
Yeah, I
So
remember
because
that
he
part.
found
So
a
I was
drive,
just
he said he found a driver's license. So
so
that's
where is the
why
guy that was
Sandra's
in the
saying,
bar?
"Where? Show me the driver's license. Show me the evidence." And he says he won't show it to her now. He'll show it to her on Monday.
Yeah.
So he's playing cat
So
and mouse
where's the
with
other writer
Sandra
that
the
was
whole
in the
time
bar with
anyway.
them? Where's the
Yeah,
other
that's
writer that
because you
was
know
in the bar?
he's the government. He's the man. He's the man in black.
And they don't even want to say that aliens exist.
Right.
Again,
So
where's
as
the
soon as
other
he tells,
writer that was in the bar with them when they first met Arya and
Oh,
before
he's
she
gone.
jumped?
He's gone. He had to come
So
back.
is he just he's just a different
Yeah,
character?
he was just there. He's just somebody that Sandra uses.
Oh,
Sandra
okay.
uses people and picks them up and puts them down. But
Okay,
yeah,
just
he's a
yeah,
the
user.
that's what I'm
Paul
trying to figure
guy,
out. Okay.
he's Homeland Security.
Mm,
And she may have
Mm-hmm.
met her match
okay.
in Paul.
Yeah,
Sandra
yeah,
may have met her match with him
yeah.
because he's not going to give up what he
No,
knows.
and he's going to put her into some trouble. I think Paul is going to put Sandra into some trouble. And saying so, eventually Sandra, well, I don't know, because I see a lot, I watch a lot of shows on TV, and the plots are pretty much always the same. But yeah, he better hurry up. He better hurry up. Goodness gracious,
I'll be honest.
I
I'll
said
be
he
honest.
should have had that bourbon. He
I'll be
just watched
honest. I'll
somebody
be
fly.
honest. We men.
Everybody at the show had to have a drink that later on that night.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest, Penn. As men, Forrest, please back me up. Sometimes we a little slow when we like, nah, that ain't happen. I ain't even gonna think. That ain't happen. Nope. I need a drink, and that ain't happen. So we a little slow. We a little slow to the draw sometimes.
Any other comments? Oh, this is truly an adventure.
Yeah, it is. It's a good story.
It's a drawn out adventure.
Yeah. It's a good story.
I think it's even too slow for men.
Yes, I agree. I agree. We're a little slow sometimes. That's true.
No, I think this whole adventure that they're on is a bit slow.
I think
We
women
don't
are always
mean to,
thinking.
we don't mean to be.
It just happens, huh?
Right. I
It's
think
just
because
Right.
women are so most emotional, you're always kind of thinking more faster than men.
He
I
said
don't
it when
know.
he no,
I
he
think
said
it's
it
just
when he
these
first
guys
met her.
right here. I think they
He
the,
said,
the
"Oh my
guys
God."
that she dealing with.
He said, "Oh my
Because
God,
men
this is
think
my
quick
dream
too.
girl."
Uh-huh.
But you know,
He said,
Men
"Oh,
make
he
women
said,
do a
oh my
whole lot
God,
of
this
things that
is my
women don't
dream
do.
girl. Oh
Okay.
my God, this is my dream girl. Did I dream her up?" But
Mhm.
once that happens, and once we see beauty, we are afraid, and it's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
It's intimidating to us. Beauty is we can beat each other down all day long and still go back and eat chicken with each other. If you look back at history, Valhalla, everybody gonna die in battle, eat, and then go back and fight again. You know, gladiators. Men think that way when it comes to, we just gonna play all day long. We see pretty, that stops everything.
Um,
well,
Okay, ready to move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter chapter 34. Amazing how an entire life can change from one day to the next, thought Paul Tour as he swished mouthwash and avoided his reflection in the bathroom mirror. He snapped his fingers, thinking, just like that. After swirling the mouthwash around a couple of times more, he spit it out into the sink, then went to put on his jacket. The television crackled to life. Special show for you today. Our guests are the lovely Dr. Midge Wuthers and an unusual inventor. Her idea was the bath books. Aria Flight. The television audience was applauding as the host went on with his introduction. Two lovely ladies. One has very down-to-earth advice, and the other plans to turn bathtubs into libraries. Stay with us, he announced sensationally before going to commercial. Mendel was uneasy as he waited in front of the television for the program to return. Sandra Wilford had called him to harp on the driver's license. She said she would give him a photocopy. The girl he called Aria Flight was really Irene Davis from Des Moines. Sandra told him she had fingerprints from a glass traced, all for their own good. A sense of resignation overwhelmed Mendel. I have to be prepared to give her up sometime, he told himself. What did I expect? That someone I found in a hotel bathroom would stay in my life like that, untouched forever, living out a role I imposed on her? He knocked himself for even considering that he had created this person who was a human being with her own rights, and it amazed him how far out there he had gotten. Following that mindset, even for a moment, his eyes slowly traveled to the television broadcast. Irene Davis from Des Moines, Iowa. Someone will probably see her, recognize her, report that she's been missing, he thought. The fantasy will be over. He only hoped that the girl hadn't intentionally fooled him, that the whole thing wasn't some publicity stunt. He was prepared to let her go, but if her amnesia were not legitimate, if she were pretending, and the past months had been only a calculated ploy to take advantage of him, if she were to become suddenly somewhat avid and ambitious, he would permanently lose trust in anyone and anything. Get on it. And I mean today. You were supposed to have that list to me by Friday. I don't give a damn if it's Saturday. Get it? I'll be there. The words were ferocious, but Sandra kept her calm. As usual, she had it totally together. She sat the phone down and silently cursed the new trainee in the newspaper office. Then, settling back into her sofa and aiming the remote control, she turned the volume back up on the television. The television talk host was addressing his guest, world-famous clinical psychologist Weathers. So what you're saying is that a girl should invite a man over, offer him fruit before deciding whether or not she should marry him? That's right, Dr. Weathers said pleasantly, nodding her head firmly but nicely. If you want to know what kind of a husband he'll be, you place a bowl in front of him with grapes, bananas, and oranges in it. Now, if he takes the orange, you know he's a very devoted, loving, loyal man, prone to taking good care of the family. If he reaches for the grapes, watch out, he is fickle. The host was listening to her very seriously.
Yeah, I'm a great dude. I'm tell you right now, I'm a great dude.
Yeah.
But wait, and bananas? He asked solemnly. Dr. Weathers intentionally tempered her altitude by projecting the image of accessible pal, even though mental authority. You're in luck. Careful to exude pleasant warmth and personality, she continued. Bananas means he's a real homebody, she concluded assuredly, very likable and home-loving. From the other guests, there was an outburst of laughter. That seemed incongruous to the conversation. The camera picked up Arya and moved in for a close-up. You're joking, aren't you? She exclaimed. Are you an actual doctor? She asked incredulously, shocking everyone. A panned long shot of the audience showed people exchanging looks and tittering. The host turned to Arya, careful to restore respect. He emphatically confirmed that Dr. Weathers was a leading psychologist. Preceding his statements with, as everyone knows, he referred to some notes listing credentials and famous institutes. Dr. Weathers punctured everything he said with bobs of her head and polite cheery uh-huhs and a that's right. She was solemnly quiet after the mention of the establishment from which she obtained her PhD. There was a moment of silence in which everyone expected Arya to be duly impressed. The camera came in close. Instead, Arya said, "You're educated? I'm sorry. That makes what you said especially ludicrous. Yes, really, you're dealing with symbols and significances that have nothing to do with what someone actually is. Grapes equal fickle." Midge Weathers confidently folded her hands on her lap. "I'd be happy to listen to your theories," she graciously invited. "What if someone just happens to like grapes?" Arya simply asked. The audience laughed. Arya turned to them and said, "Is there anyone out there who likes grapes?" There were some yeses and scattered applause. "Okay," Arya replied. "Does that mean you're fickle? Are you all fickle?" One person shouted, "No," and others followed in unison. "But I bet she had you wondering about yourself for a minute there, probably even trying to convince yourself you must be fickle because you like grapes." The audience laughed again. Aria asked Dr. Wuthers, what if someone just didn't feel like peeling an orange in the particular circumstances? What if the man thought it would be messy to peel? Or what if he had a hangnail? So he reaches for a grape. Would he then be condemned as fickle? Or maybe some man's potassium deficiency creates a craving, so he chooses a banana. He's a capricious, disloyal individual, but suddenly the banana makes him a homebody. Midge's face was frozen in a tolerant smile. Aria was amazed. Do you call this a science? Seriously? All right, we have to break, the host intervened. Don't go away. We'll be right back. America, America snacking, snack, snack, crunch, munch. Don't lift your armpit unless hot, hot, sexy, sexy, sex. Cool fashion at half the price. 5. 2 children. Shooting victims. Be noticed. Get close. Women who eat too much. Gang. Low fat. 25% fewer calories. Earthquake. Murder. The theme music surged when the show returned. And Dr. Wuthers, I guess that would be it, commercial. Dr. Wuthers delivered the statement she had been holding on to during the commercial break. The human being is a funny animal. Aria opened her eyes wide in an overly emphatic gesture. No, doctor, the human being is not an animal. Don't you like animals? Dr. Wuthers deviated. Let's remain on the subject, Aria said, and the host lifted his eyebrows to the audience. The human being is not a stimulus response machine such as the Pavlov dog theory would have us think. Ah, but we are, Dr. Wuthers said with a smile, trying to infuse her voice with a fun spirit of learning. Aria shook her head. Certain responses of the mind or the body can go into play when activated, but people are not animals to be manipulated with psychobabble. We are not just programmable blood and guts. People suffer from many complexes. That is why there are experts, Dr. Wuthers stated, placing herself in the position of one who could analyze Aria. An impulse is different from a sentiment. Aspects of the body or mind can be activated by stimuli, yes, and this can confuse a person, especially if the impulse does not concur with the individual's sentiment, Aria explained. A person is impulses, Dr. Wuthers stated. No, Aria told her. If people understood that their beliefs, sentiments, and ideas do not have to be minimized by any conflicting reactions of their mind or body, they would realize who's home. Who's home? Aria nodded. A person can start doing something about it just by knowing the difference, she said fervently. And people can be liberated from brainwashing that convince them that they are evil or bad. Don't you see? An individual's ability to observe and reason should be the science of the mind, freeing from stimulus responses, not using weaknesses or buttons further to make people into robots. Carried away by Aria's enthusiasm, the audience began to applaud. As the hour started to interject, Dr. Wuthers clipped him off. Very optimistic, she declared, holding her hand up knowingly. And when the audience settled down, she said to gain their support, it's healthy to have dreams. Aria isolated it isolated what it was about Dr. Weathers' statement that bothered her and said, "It seems to comfort certain people to think that these are only dreams, right? Puffy, wuffy, dreams, fine, because they can come, fine, because they can never be realized. So, toss the human race and its little dreams, but not the big ones. Wake and free them. Give them the fragments, a little hope. Give them a few drugs to ease the bleak pictured reality, the reality that is found on us every day, that we are nothing more than animal. Life is hell and we die." "That's a very strange statement," commented Dr. Weathers without changing her demeanor. She lifted her chin and her eyes turned suddenly very analytical. The smile was not as wide, but still in place. "You feel very strongly about this." Benevolently and curiously, Arya gave voice to her realization. "And you appear to have trouble feeling about it." "Excuse me, where did you say you earned your degree?" Dr. Weathers inquired. "I find observation to be my best teacher," Arya answered the question, and skirted the issue of her lack of memory. "Reality is not all that bad," Dr. Weathers began, talking down to Arya as if to comfort her. Arya stopped her. "I don't have a problem with reality." "I'm not saying anything against you," Dr. Weathers denied pleasantly. "And I'm not paranoid," Arya rebutted flatly, pointing a finger as she caught the doctor's unspoken implication. The audience exploded into applause. Arya flushed with pleasure. She was standing up for others too. She felt. Along with that came a drive that bypassed and left in the dust her introverted concerns about self. Her body was shaking, but she was voicing her convictions, aglow with the feeling that she was doing something for the world. Raising her voice over the hand clapping, she said, "But crime, murder, all manner of abhorrent behavior, economic slavery, and fear are not my idea of what to accept as reality. I mean, come on, it's just common sense here. When you look around and have people insisting that disease be allowed free rein, but decency and tenderness and values should be quarantined, something is backward." Another round of applause went off from the audience. The host was about to say something, but Dr. Weathers raised her hand expertly. "Does the thought of death bother you?" Arya thought about it. "No, it insults me." "Quite a bold statement," Dr. Weathers analyzed. "Thank you," Arya mused playfully. The show host appointed himself referee, parroted the psychiatrist. "Another strong statement. Are you going to modify it?" Arya looked at him with mock offense. Then, letting go a big smile, softly said, "No." The audience was hushed. "But," Arya sat up straighter, "I will point something out here. We have all witnessed it firsthand. Science of the mind should be a system which gives us understanding and improved mastery of our lives. Yet, the practice of those who call themselves experts seem to be control operations. What kind of music will make you spend money in the stores? What colors do you eat, make you eat? What drugs make you obedient? And more. I'm sorry to say, how to program assassins. What can make active children inactive? What drugs can break wills and keep people from remembering too much? It's science of pulling strings, pushing buttons, drugging, and enslavement. Dr. Withers held up her hands to show they were empty. No strings, she said, laughing. There's an example, Harriott cited conveniently. Changing the subject, attempting to introvert, using a literal meaning to twist the intended one. Psyche means soul, yet it's denied we are soul. Instead, the agenda seems to be pull strings and keep the human being down and keep the human being down into a programmable animal. It's grotesque, frankly. How do I know? I just know. Most of us, if left alone, just want to live and love. Life could be truly beautiful. Harriott stood up in her enthusiasm. The audience went wild with applause and cheering. Her eyes started to twinkle. Harriott kidded, who knows? Maybe I'm paranoid. But you know what they say. Just because I'm paranoid does not mean they're not out to get me. The audience laughed. Cheers rose and applause increased. While the show host had not expected it to be confrontational, he was pleased with the results from a standpoint of ratings. We'll be right back. Any comments here? I find it very interesting that a book that we've been discussing was mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to say is sometimes in certain novels, the reader gets so hung up on the characters and the plot and all that, that they miss some valuable truths. And this section right now just showed some valuable truths that the author, Vanna Bonnet, has put into her book. And at times, even us in discussing it, we get hung up on what's happening in the adventure and in the characters that we miss some of the truths that Aria is sharing, and some of the insights that we see when we read about the character Sandra. How manipulative she can be, and yet how manipulated we've been with some of the people in our own lives, how they've manipulated us by their way of doing things. And I think this chapter pointed out some of the valuable truths that are in this book, as opposed to the characters.
Yeah,
that's what I so far.
Penelope, can you find your buttons? Did you have any comments?
Yeah. And just to let you know, it's 8:14.
Okay.
So I don't know, if we
Well,
want to kind of
no,
break here.
I think this would be a good place to kind of stop, even though it is in the middle of the chapter. I do like to finish the chapter before, by the end of the night, but there's too much left, and it will make us close to 9 o'clock or maybe after to try and finish the chapter. So we'll just cut it off at this point. And it's going in a different direction from this point anyway.
How did she get on the talk show?
That I don't know. Because nothing was mentioned about her being on the talk show before that.
Well, I think,
I know one thing is that she did say she wanted to help change the world, so maybe she just I don't,
Well,
and you know how
she was introduced as the inventor of these plastic books that could be read in a shower, or I mean in a
Oh yeah,
bathtub,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
uh,
Yep, yep,
uh,
yep. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
but it seems as though the discussion with her and the psychiatrist has taken the front, or taken the lead, as
Wasn't
opposed
maybe
to.
One of
maybe
the
I
things I think that's
misunderstood.
interesting is that you got two women still like sparring.
Yeah. Wasn't she
So
introduced though as Irene, as a doctor?
The psychiatrist.
Didn't I miss that? Because you had the
It's a-
one when they
Doctor.
introduced, I thought they didn't introduce her as Aria. Maybe I missed something.
they introduced her as the name that was on the driver's license.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're calling her by the name that of the fingerprints from the glass that she's found. We're again at the point that everybody, everybody has seen her fly. Everybody's seen her jump out of a building. Some people have seen her heal onyx. So I think right now she's coming into her own,
When you said she,
and
you're
now
talking about Aria.
Aria, yeah, Aria is coming into her own, and now she's sparring.
Yeah.
She has to. She not necessarily saying that Mendel is not that point, but now she's going out on her own. Again, puberty. You leave your. She's ready to leave her friend. I don't think she was ready to go to Iowa with Sandra, even though she learned what she learned. But now but she's brought back what she's learned, and now she's going out and she's challenging, and she's showing strength and energy and power to challenge.
Also, too,
So
remember that she is a being, and for lack of a better term, an extraterrestrial who is now humanized, and she's on this earth. And I do believe that beings from other planets are very highly evolved. They're very intelligent, and
They're here.
of my opinion, my thoughts, I think human beings on Earth are the stupidest creatures in the galaxy. Compared to beings from other planets and other other parts of the solar system.
Think about this as some food for thought. But do you find that some of our friends, family, consider us sometimes as being from other planets? And even we ourselves sometimes think, because we see life from a different vantage point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just food for thought.
Well, I'll share this story if I may. So one of my friends, her daughter is very spiritual. And she said, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "What?" She says, "Do you want to know the truth?" I said, "What?" She says, "You're not human." I says, "What do you mean?" She says, "You're not human. You're a creature, but you're not human." So I thought that was interesting because she was so spiritual that she would actually come to me and says, "You're not human."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is. That
And
is.
she's
And
very spiritual.
well,
Little
I
girl.
would, a little girl.
I would say teenager.
Oh, okay.
We may
Well,
be here to spread that light and that love.
again, I have my things when it comes to aliens. Sumerians, Anunnakis, Nephilims, Enoch, everything that usually flies out of my mouth. usually goes back to being bigger than what we are, and
Mhm.
and that, and yes, a creation of whatever is the best. I don't think that we are what you would call the stupidest. I think, and well, for Miss Harriet, where you said, I don't think that we are the stupidest. I think that we are the most naive.
Okay, I'll take that.
Um, because, and I think that we are the most naive we have because we're the youngest out of
Hmm.
anything.
We've been easily brainwashed.
I mean, well, not even brainwashed. I mean, even though we're not speaking, religiously on this, but if you really look at it, whether it be Atlantis, aliens, Egypt, aliens, Mesopotamia, aliens, Babylon, aliens, Mesopotamia, aliens, aliens. If you go further back, it really shows that we come from something that's different. So if we believe that we are inhuman, we will be inhuman. We are still on this plane. So what we do on this plane and how we react to the actions in the situations in the vibrations on this plane again, we will be able to adapt to. So for our character, our main character, Arya and Mendel. I don't want to say his name wrong. Mendel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because Penna almost went to our family and start calling people family names, but very close to family names. But Mendel, you know, we know he has a drinking problem, but we also know he's an excellent writer. We know that he has a problem with his temper. We haven't even gotten into his psyche to figure out what's going on with him that made him the way that he is. So again, I go back to what you were saying at first, Penn. I do believe that he is Arya's soulmate. He has just been beaten down and forgot and enslaved that he doesn't even know it himself. He's
Mhm.
forgotten it himself. We speak on that all day long. How many people forget, or how is it easy to lose your knowledge and your culture because someone oppresses you?
Whoa. But, and also,
Don't
I
don't give
think
me a
I
whoa.
express, I
Don't give me a
express,
whoa, Miss Harriet.
no, uh, from the very beginning, I felt like, and I expressed the thought or the idea that Mendel was, because in the very beginning of the book, when we were introduced to Ariel, she is pondering, where is Jarian? And that's that I have been calling her soulmate and very dear friend. But from the
Hmm.
beginning, we were introduced to Mendel as Mendel J. Orion. And I said, I expressed from the very beginning that J stands for Jarian.
This doesn't go along with what you're saying, but I do remember you saying that. But in this last chapter, and I can't remember the exact words of the line, but it had to do with changing the mind, and that's when she mentioned the science of mind and our one's ability to change by changing the mind, and by changing it, we're able to deal with when we are confronted with certain things, to either accept it and act accordingly that way, or not accept it and act accordingly that way. So it does have to do with us looking beyond what appears to be and opening our minds to a better way. And I think each one of us has, pretty much said something similar to that. Because it does depend on how we react to certain things as to whether we are human at a low state or human at a middle state, or as a human who's become more consciously aware and seeing beyond what appears to be. Because some people do have to experience what they're going through in order to learn, and then there are others who may have already experienced it and have the wisdom to know how to move from that place. And then there are people who see it and are aware of it but don't get drawn into it. So I think, as humans, we're not all the worst creatures in the universe. Some of us have been here many, many times and are bringing with us knowledge from
those past
other
lives.
Dimensions, other planets, and other ways, but we're finding it very hard sometimes to express it because there are so many that are still in that third, fourth dimension of thinking.
And will look at us like we're crazy.
Oh, yeah. But that's okay. Think we're, they can think we're weird. They can think we're different.
That's okay.
But it doesn't change our consciousness. It doesn't change us. It merely confirms that we're doing the right thing by being who we are.
And again, if you don't mind me speaking, we're
Yes.
the way that you just were speaking on that, Miss Arskina, is if we're looking at it from that point of view that you just spoke of, what makes us so special that we come back and our adversaries don't come back and we do not run back into them?
Well, I feel it's because
and not know them. If we've not learned that lesson, if we've not learned that lesson, or they have not learned that lesson, and you come back, as far as we're speaking, then that means you're either the teacher or you're the student, and either way, being either the teacher or the student, you still have not either mastered or you have not accepted that something has overcome your mastery where now you need to learn.
Right.
Or have you not completed?
Just a question. I mean, what's this going on?
No, did you not complete your mission the last time around? And you're coming back to complete that mission.
Yeah.
See, an adversary, I don't think an adversary is your enemy. An adversary could be someone that is a great person that makes you debate and and challenges you versus be your enemy, versus an enemy and an adversary or a foe. A foe is different. So an adversary can be someone that you respect. You just don't
agree, maybe
you just don't agree. So if we come back on that entity, why wouldn't they come back and run back into us so we can do it again? I don't want to keep butting heads with the same person. I don't want to keep doing that.
That's why you're rising above that.
I don't want it, so cancel out. And I think that's what Aria has learned. She has canceled out But I think as far as going back to the book, I want to kind of stay in the book, but I think that's what Arya has learned at this point in time, that she has canceled out. And again, originally going to the book, he was taken from her by a warring tribe or something. So he doesn't know who he is.
You mean Mendel /
Doesn't, yeah,
Jarian?
yeah, doesn't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
She's been searching galaxies for him, and he's been in our lifetime. Imagine if you are a spiritual, imagine again, we know time doesn't exist outside these bodies. Imagine a being that does not know time enter these bodies. It's a whole different thing. So the pain that he's felt is I can only explain it like this. I can explain it, and please don't quote me on it, and it has nothing to do with political, but imagine those 200 people that are now in Giza underground who had nothing to do, who just woke up. And this is not political, but just who woke up underground, and now you a hostage because somebody took you. You're gonna do everything you do just to keep breathing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes us animals.
Okay, well, it's 8:30, 8:31. Let's do our roundtable real quick. What did we get from today's session, and how can we apply it to our lives? Anybody want to go first?
Well, I can go first if that's all right with everybody. What I got from it basically is that we are here, just as Arya, she's here and has popped up into Mendel's real life, so to speak, and his creative life as an author, to teach and to help open him up, to help him see and realize that he's much more than what Sandra is seeing in him. Sandra is seeing in him as a possible mate, somebody to have sex with, but Sandra's not seeing the true man, the true spiritual, the true soul. Arya, I think, is seeing the true soul and is bringing that out in him so that he can see it. And by him eventually seeing it, he will eventually change his mind and his way of looking at things and open his mind to a much vaster life.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Okay, well, I'll go.
Don't get quiet. I'll do it. I'm trying not to talk too much. This chapter has definitely reminded me of the relationships between men and women, and how to and definitely to be mindful of them, and always never forget the person who I am, and look at what goes on upon other people, and not to forget that sometimes it's easy to forget. So I'll take this chapter and try to remember on a daily basis that, and that's what I've learned, and that's what I'm gonna definitely try to continue to strive to. I'm done. I'm done.
Okay. For me, this whole book has been an adventure. It is, and it's interesting how Vanna is trying to show us, the reader, that life is, how can I express it? That we can enjoy life, we can look at life from many different perspectives. And when we begin to open up, and I think this is coming out more through Arya than any of the other characters, that we really need to look at each other, look at ourselves, and look at each other in a compassionate, empathetic way, so that we and she seems to kind of emphasize it, especially in this chapter, that we need to not be so hung up, or not take things, the negative that we see going on in the world and in society and in our neighborhoods or wherever, as matter of factly. We all need to learn to try and find a way to make this world a better place.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Harriet.
okay. Thank you. I'm glad you all. My phone got overheated for a second and shut me down. So I was the last on Andre, and so that was Harriott. Forrest, had you have a chance to give your round table? Is Forrest still here?
Yeah, he's still here, but he's on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I learned from the book is that how to look things out of the box. That we're all have more compassion for people and for myself, and to understanding that women and men do think differently, but more importantly, we're all spirit, and just to be more giving and to be look things not in the box but out of the box for myself.
Yeah,
That's what I learned.
very good.
Okay. Well, I guess for me, the main thing that I got from today's session is how precise Vanna Bonta is in understanding the psyche, understanding spirituality, understanding quantum physics, and how she can interweave. She can weave all of those things together to make a very vibrant picture. So I seeing her as an author, I think that she's a really good author, and it just makes me want, it just wettens my appetite to be more creative for myself. So that's it for me for tonight. That's my round table. Now tomorrow we don't have anything scheduled, but Saturday we are on the Gospel of Thomas from 2 to 4. Sunday from 2 to 4 we are doing our writers group. So what a perfect timing for a writers group. So if you have ideas of a story that you want to you want to talk about or suggest, if you have are stumped and have some writer's block, that's one of the things that you might want to talk about for the for that. If you have if you want to just talk about your journal, where what are your journaling ideas. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about on Sunday. And the following Sunday on the 12th, we're going to meet here at my house for to do tarot spreads. So Sakina, you're welcome to come if you want. We're gonna work on tarot spreads. So I think that's gonna, you know how we do BYOB and potluck. So let's just come, and then I would like to, I always want to try to, at least once a month that we can try to get together and just have some fellowship.
Okay. I'll tell Robert.
Well, that would be great. Yeah, that would be on the 12th
Okay.
of November. Yeah. And that's it for this evening. Unless anybody has any questions or comments.
No, it's been very good.
Good. So would anyone like to close us out in prayer? Okay, I will. Let's just settle for a second and have just understand, just like where Aria is in this place of compassion, knowing that the single source that we are all aspects of is compassion, is love, is peace, is victory, is strength, is power. And each of us reflect that source. And as we come together at this moment, just to have had some fellowship and some friendship and some fun, now let's just release those attitudes and those attributes of source back into our hearts, into our communities, into our nation, and into our world. And with that, we say, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
Good night.
All right, love y'all.
Good night.
Love you too.
Love
Bless you
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye.